Hello and welcome to this first session on starting a professional learning community. So this is session number one, how you would set up your first PLC in your school or your place of work. Now my name is Stephen Holt, I'm Assistant Head of Primary at Nord Anglia International School of Hong Kong, and if we were together I would like some information from you just to find out where we all are at this point in time, so where you're calling from, your position in school, because that depends on the sort of impact you can make in your organisation. Are you a senior leader, or are you a head of a team, or are you a teacher who just wants to change things within their own department? And also I would have liked to have known your current knowledge of PLCs. Okay, so have you done any before? Do you have knowledge of it but haven't put one into place yet? Or whether you've done lots like I have. Okay, so like I said, my name is Stephen Holt. I'm Assistant Head in Hong Kong, and I've been involved in PLCs for 6 years now. So I would say that I don't profess to be an expert in PLCs, but I would say today's session is just my personal journey in professional learning communities, my reflections on that process. And like I said, I do have 6 years experience of being involved and running them. And I would say that also it's really opened my eyes to my continuing professional development, how my previous school was very much a top-down, this is what you need to know type of CPD. But since I've been at this school, the use of PLCs has really helped me to think about my own teaching, how my own children learn, and why we do things. And I really feel empowered that I've been part of this process rather than being told what to do. Okay, so this activity was just to illustrate and to show you the power of collaboration. So I was going to ask you a question, a common problem for teachers. So my example was, my Year 5 class are too chatty in the morning. They take too long to settle down to work. So what strategies would you have to share with me? So I was going to just be quiet for 2 minutes, and I was going to either hear you talk and hear your suggestions, or I was going to read your chat in the chat bar down the side, and I was going to get lots and lots of ideas from what I could hear you telling me, strategies that you've used, things that have helped you when you've had a chatty classroom. Okay, and this would have showed you hopefully that the power of collaboration. So just a bunch of people sat together talking can help somebody else who has a problem. Now this is the crux, I think, of a PLC. It's sharing expertise. Okay, so there's lots of expertise in all of our teams, in all of our departments, in all of our schools. Sometimes we don't share that so well, and actually it's all out there. Okay, so share that expertise. Listening and being heard, and feeling valued. Okay, so feeling valued that you have an opinion, you've shared it, and someone's listened to you and taken your ideas on board. So our objectives in this session today. So we're going to understand just what a PLC is. Think about what the potential impacts and benefits of PLCs are for your organisation. It might not be for your whole school, it might just be for your team, it might be for your department. We're going to learn different structures of a PLC. There's not just one way to structure a PLC. And then practical steps, how you would start your own PLC. So what is a professional learning community? Now, I've got this great quote from the Ministry of Education in Ontario. Now, a PLC, in their words, is a shared vision for running a school in which everyone can make a contribution and staff are encouraged to collectively undertake activities and reflection in order to constantly improve their students' performance. Now, it's my view, I really feel that schools are communities of professionals, and we're all members of this professional community, and our job is to habitually review our practice individually after our lessons and collectively as we're planning, just so we can all find best practice for our work. Now, research indicates that this is mainly done by building really strong professional communities, and school leaders help to improve the quality of teaching and student outcomes. I feel, professional communities become highly desirable places in which to work. They've got a distinctive set of values, challenges, working relationships and practices. We all have friends at work. We all have our friends, we all have our colleagues, but this community is a little bit more than that. They do things differently to the traditional model, where teachers often work in isolation. They're on their own, maybe they're learning or being told what to do from above. More into horizontal forms of professional accountability and shared responsibility for pupil learning and well-being. It helps we peer review each other's work rather than working on our own. Now, it needs time, so we need time and opportunities to build these professional communities based on evidence and our teaching practice, opportunities for students to learn and learning outcomes. Now, what I think, for me, what defines a professional community is a shared commitment to work together to create an effective learning environment. Okay, so it's driven by teachers and their own professionalism. So that was a lot, but in a nutshell, a professional learning community is groups of teachers who regularly work together, researching, trialing, observing, reflecting, and refining collaboratively to achieve a common aim in a supportive environment. So some questions here. I'd like you to, before we move on any further, just a little pause for thought. How does your team, how does your school, how does it currently improve pupil outcomes? What does collaboration look like within your team, within your school? If I was to walk into your school, what would I hear and what would I see? And how well do you think your school or your team collaborates? So pause this video and have a little think about that in your school. So there is a 7-stage process, as you can see the wheel on the left there. And it's all about creating a culture of refinement and improving. Now, the setup of a PLC, it will depend on your setup, on your organization, and it will change from place to place. There's no fixed rule. Okay? So usually a PLC will run for at least a year. It might run for 2 years. I've actually done one that took 1 term. It depends on how you intend to set it up and what time frame you have to do this. First of all, you need to identify a team or teams of interested colleagues, or you could just invite the whole school to do this. How are you going to make up your team? It could be similar teams. So it could be your Year 3 team. It could be your maths department. It could be the whole of Key Stage 2. It could be the whole of your middle school. Depends on your situation. You could mix subjects. You could mix phase. If you run a through school, you could mix schools. So you could have high school, middle school, and elementary school teachers working together in a group. You could have primary and secondary teachers working in a group. You need to set aside some time for monthly meetings. Again, depending on your time frame, you might want to make that termly meetings or half-termly meetings, but you need to give time for this. You also need to give time between meetings, so teachers can get together to plan and observe each other. So that's a bit of a brief overview of the 7 stages. So I'm going to look at these 7 stages here in turn. So I'm going to start with establishing a group. Now, like I said at the beginning, there are different ways to structure your group. Okay, different ways you can lay this out as a senior leader. So this is one model that I have seen used, where senior leadership decided what the focus of the group would be. They decided what the group would be to create the PLC. That's a top-down approach. Basically, senior leadership identifying everything and organizing everything in advance. I will talk about the pros and cons of each of these groups after these slides. Another approach would be a top-down approach with flexible choices. So again, the senior leadership decide the variety of foci that you would have in your choice of professional community topics. Teachers will then go and choose a topic. And I will talk a little bit more in a minute about what that topic might be, what that focus might be. So your teachers will then, so this would be, for example, you might have a hall or a room full of your teachers. What you might do is have a sign-up sheet around the room with different focus. And then teachers decide, I really want to do how to support EAL learners in English, for example. Another group of teachers might decide, I want to look at how to introduce new apps, new technology into my teaching. So a group of teachers would go to that sign-up sheet. And then groups will be formed then based on this teacher focus. So teachers choosing what interests them, teachers choose what they maybe they want to get better at, maybe they are not sure about it, maybe it's something new for them. They want to learn something new, so they've gone to that focus. And the PLC has been created. There might be for example, the senior leadership team again, they choose a variety of foci. I'll talk about where these might come from in a second. Then you could do this within a department. So for example, 2 years ago, my year 4 team, we created our own PLC and we chose a focus from a school improvement plan, and we decided that's what we wanted to do, that was relevant to our department, so we created our own PLC just in our own year group. Okay, so the pros and cons then of each one. Okay, so the first one, where senior leadership decides everything for you. Pros, as a senior leader, you can be sure that it's a highly focused subject. This is an imperative. This is something very important to your school, your organization. So you've chosen something that needs to get done. It's pretty formal. Top-down structures are established. So you might have so leaders all the way through the system leading what has to be done. The other pro is you will probably get the job done. If you've made this a priority, you set up this structure, you want this done, this will probably happen. There are cons though. Some teachers might feel like they have been conscripted into this group. There's not necessarily a buy-in. They might think, this is just another project I need to do. And some people might be left behind because of this. The second structure would be the senior leadership providing a set of foci. Teachers choose a focus and then groups are formed based on this focus. So no matter where they are in the school, if they're secondary, primary, whether you do English or maths, whether you're a year 1 teacher or a year 6 teacher, you might be in the same group based on this interest. Lots of pros here. So this has been led by teacher choice. So there's more of a buy-in to this focus because they want to do this. The group's been created organically, which might lead to deeper conversations. If you've got a year 1 teacher in the same group as a year 13 teacher, you're talking to professionals who you might not normally work with, so you might have a whole new perspective on whatever you're looking into. The cons are, maybe you have too many varied opinions. Maybe you don't quite align because you are so disparate in your subject area or which part of the school you're in. And from an organisational, logistical point of view, it might just be more difficult to meet, observe, and to share. You might be on different timetables, you might finish later in the day, you might have meetings at different times. It's a bit trickier just to draw all these people together at the same place at the same time. The final one is when the senior leadership just provides the foci for the school, and then departments then choose which focus fits their own department. So the pros of this setup are it's highly focused. It means that the department has chosen that focus, what it wants to do. It's relevant to them. It helps to build a team culture. So if you had your department, maybe your humanities department, or maybe your year 2 or your year 3 team, you help to create that team culture. Really easy collaboration, easier observations, and sharing. The cons are you might be working in an echo chamber. Okay, you might be working in an echo chamber. So you're with people you work with all the time. Maybe they've got similar experiences to you. So maybe you don't quite hear that depth. You might not have that depth of conversation that you might do if you had a different set of people in your group. Okay, so pros and cons for each of these structures. So once you've decided on a structure, then you can think about what your focus might be. Okay, so it might be presumably you will have a school improvement plan or a self-evaluation form. Okay, you might have a departmental action plan. You might be a subject leader who has a development plan just for your subject. This is, I would say, up to you. If you want to make this super flexible, you might want to leave it open for your teams to decide what they wanted to do. Okay, now this is depends on you. If you want to give teachers the flexibility, they might decide that they want to do something that is of their interest, what is very relevant to their departments. But I would suggest that it would be better to be aligned with your improvement plan or aligned with your departmental plan. So some ideas for a focus that I've done in my school. It might be new classroom apps, new technology. There might be lots of experience within your school. People know of a new website, a new app that's really helped bring on teaching and learning. Perhaps that expertise could be shared in different teams. How we support our EAL learners. Flipped learning. Mastery in maths. Embedding school visions or school promises. Improving oracy skills within your school. Differentiation. Talk the right. Or formative assessment. Okay, so take a minute to have a think about what your focus might be and where you might get your focus from. Okay, so we've just done number 2 of the 7-step cycle. So you've established a group, you worked out your structure, you know how you're going to do this, and then you need to identify a focus, which is number 2 in the cycle. Then we start moving on to the action enquiry. So in a typical cycle, there would be 6 stages, so 6 meetings. Number one, you need an initial meeting. That's your initial intro. You meet your team. You might want to talk about who might be leading the group. That might be already predetermined. Maybe it's someone who is a particular expert at something. So if it was, for example, looking at how to use apps, there might be somebody in that team who's really knowledgeable. You might have somebody who's not quite so knowledgeable. So it would be someone leading it that could take that forward. It might be somebody who's championing something as part of your school action plan. So that, again, they might lead it. Or it might just be your head of department or head of year. Somebody who's going to drive this PLC forward. Stage 2 is going away to do some research. Meeting 3 will be to come back all together to discuss what you found out. Step 4 will be then to go away and trial it, observe what people are doing, and then importantly use feedback on this process. Step 5 will be to refine what you've tried, and then 6, you come back together as a group to review what you have found. So again, this whole meeting cycle could take a term. So like I said earlier, we did one when I was head of year 4, looking at formative assessment, and we managed to do this in one term. But that was quite easy because that was part of our year group structure. We had plenty of meeting time, plenty of chance to get together, easy to observe, easy to feedback. So it worked within a term. This could take a year, it could take 2 years, depending on how you choose to structure this. So then you get going. So your action inquiry, your innovation and change. It's time for you to go and do some research. Now, plenty of places you can do this. You have the traditional methods by looking at books. What does it say in the literature? What is going on that will really help you drive your PLC? So once you've had your first meeting, you say, off you go, let's research what our focus is. So maybe if you were head of year, or maybe if you're leading this, you might do some research, you might buy some books, get some books in, share the books around, and let teachers have some time to have a look and find really practical examples of things they could do to alter, that they want to trial and they want to practice. Google is the obvious place to go to. There's lots and lots out there on your area of academic research, anything that might be out there. I have, the past couple of years, used Facebook a lot, but especially I use Twitter a lot to share and look at what's going on in the education world. Following especially this Twitter handle here, EduTwitter. There is lots going on out there. Wherever you are, whatever your subject is, there's a lot going on. If you're a leader, if you are in a certain subject, if you're in a certain year group, there's a lot of sharing and talk going on out there. So I would really encourage you to look at Twitter or whatever your social media presence is to see what else is happening out there. But this is the exciting bit. This is how you freshen up what you are currently doing. This is where you get new ideas, and this is really good. I think lots of teachers really value this time to go off and learn about what they can do to improve what they do. It's really important at this stage to think about what is it that you're planning to do. What changes will you make? What support will you need? And how will you know if you've made any progress? So this is just the initial stages of going out there and having a look, see what's out there that you can change. So stage 5 is to trial and feedback. So you have gone out there, you have found something, and you need to try it out. So it's really important that you have the culture that failure is okay. So for example, I talked about our year 4 formative assessment PLC. So we had a meeting, we looked at some books, looked at the literature, found some ideas, and then our 5 classroom teachers, we all went and tried something different in each of our classes. Now, mine was to use a particular form of formative assessment, which I thought looked absolutely amazing. It looked really, really good. This has to work as a pre-learning task and then a post-learning task to see how pupils have improved during the course of the lesson. Now, actually, what I found was the tool I used seemed to show that my pupils had all gone backwards in that time, which showed me that I knew they hadn't gone backwards. I knew pupils had moved forwards, but it showed that the tool I was using wasn't actually that good a tool at checking formative assessment for me. And that was okay. So I tried it. It didn't work out. But the people that came to observe me, they came in, it was an open door, it was a non-threatening way. They were critical friends, and we had a big chat about this afterwards, and we tried to work out why it didn't work. Okay, your people observing you, they want to help you, they want to move you forward, and this is a really important part of a PLC culture. I think, depending on where you work, there are some schools still where observations are a threatening experience. It inhibits sometimes in what we do. And it's not a place where you can try something out and get some good feedback on that. So a PLC gives you the opportunity to try something. If it fails, and you learn from it. If it doesn't fail, if it works, then everyone wins. And then stage 6, you refine your practice. So like I said, so my example was this particular form of formative assessment didn't work. So I could either refine it, I could either try and make that a bit better. I decided it just wasn't a good way to use, a good tool to use for formative assessment, so I tried something else. It might be you might need to tweak something you've done. Maybe it nearly worked, but your critical friend decided that there's something, maybe why don't you try something else to make that better, and you give that a go as well. So a big part of a PLC is the sharing outcomes, number 7 in that circle there. Now this is excellent. This is one of the best things, a celebration about all you've achieved in your PLC. So it could be a big reveal where different PLCs share what they've developed and learned. So one thing we've done in this school was the whole school, so primary and secondary, each chose a different PLC to be involved in. So groups went off, and the whole year we went off and we followed this cycle. So we had a focus, we tried things, had meetings, tried something different, observed. Really fantastic experience. So it meant that myself as a primary school teacher, I went off to secondary. I was looking at this was about differentiation. I was looking at how they differentiate in a secondary modern foreign languages class, for example, how they differentiate in a maths class. And it takes you out of your comfort zone. Secondary teachers came to watch primary school lessons. And again, it's a whole different pedagogy, but we've all learned from each other. Now, the big reveal, the show and tell at the end, we had the whole school in one place, and then different PLCs, so the leader of each PLC went to the front and just shared what they found out. Now, this was really valuable. So not only have you learned from your own individual PLC, but you've learned from the whole school feeding back. So there's always something you can take from other people's PLCs. So I talked earlier about the technology and apps. So on that particular session, the leader talked about what apps they'd used, and then the whole school then learns about different apps. And people went away to go and use them, and they've been tried and tested. They've been tried, tested, and proved to work so we went off and tried something else. It might be something to do with a particular subject. If you can just get something you can take away and use, it's been a really useful session. Before the big reveal, each group will have a smaller scale sharing session. So if you're doing it as a team, as a year group, or as a department, you do it all together. So you're all coming together. You've all seen, observed each other, and then you can share and talk about your practice. And then you are passing on gems of information, things that other people in your team, in your year group, can use for themselves. So, to finish off, setting up a PLC checklist. So, basically, it's a 4-stage process. Number 1, decide your focus or foci. 2, what structure will you use and who will lead it? Find time in the school calendar for PLC meetings and follow-ups. And 4, provide opportunities to share outcomes. Now I've got these 3 pictures at the bottom because these sum up for me the 3 really important things that you must have for a good PLC. The first one is time. You need to give your teachers, you need to give your colleagues time to do this. This is not a quick process. It needs time, it needs structure over the whole school year, over the term. Maybe time in staff meetings, maybe even time out of the classroom, so cover might be involved. But teachers need time to do this. The second one, you need enthusiasm and you need leadership. You need somebody who's going to really drive this in your school. You need somebody who's going to drive it within your team. Who's going to keep it all together? Who's going to make sure meetings are happening, make sure research is being done, and support colleagues in the whole process. You also need the third pitch here, which is collaboration, which brings about agency, so ownership of the whole PLC process. Now, a really good website to go to get started on this is the Australian Council for Educational Research. Again, I really like looking at Twitter, so EduTwitter is a good hashtag to search for there. You might want to do some looking at how professional learning communities happen around the world. Again, using that hashtag there. And that's the end of the webinar. So thank you for listening, and good luck setting up your own PLC. Thank you.